This is the new MacBook Pro. And I hate so many things about it. I also love many things about it, but that just doesn't sound as interesting now, does it? Technically, there is other stuff they announced at the event. Colorful HomePod minis, they are so cool they remembered it'll exist for the occasion. New AirPods, they basically look like AirPods Pro without the removable ear tips. They last 6 hours, they have special audio, and they now support MagSafe. And that's about it. Now let's talk about the new MacBook Pro. Starting with the new design. It's not horrible, it has some elements I like. For example, the new full-size keyboard that finally got rid of the touch bar. It's nice. It has plenty of I/O, including an SD card slot and an HDMI port. Very nice. This doesn't really have anything to do with design, but I have to mention it. The screen has ProMotion. I really wasn't expecting it, but it's nice. It has a notch. I actually don't mind that much because they aren't trying to make it blend in with the UI or something, and my main concern when I first heard of the leak was that they were going to make macOS look different. They didn't. Also, it basically disappears most of the times, but I kinda have this feeling that when visible, it may be more noticeable compared to how it is on the iPhone, because the aspect ratio of the MacBook is absolutely not as tall as the iPhone's, but we'll see. Though I will say, it doesn't have Face ID, making the notch in itself pretty strange, like, what's even the point? I really also don't like how they beveled the edges of the notch. They just don't look good. Here's a quick redesign. What do you think? Does it look better? But of course, none of this matters, because now that Apple did it, get ready to see all the other manufacturers doing the same thing, but worse. And it also has some potentially bad implications. Are they going to put the notch somewhere else? Maybe on a future MacBook Air? Is the notch going to be white? Because that will look terrible. Now, for the stuff that kept me up at night. The chassis has rounded edges. Not even on the whole body, it's just on the bottom part. I get why. This MacBook is very thick apparently. And I guess it's necessary because of how they designed the cooling system. But it doesn't look good. Those rubber feet are not like the ones on the redesigned iMac or the Pro Display. They are just circular, and they just had to raise them like this. They have 2 layers. They aren't even beveled. Why are they like this? They look even worse considering how beveled the chassis is instead. It has MagSafe, not this MagSafe, this MagSafe. I don't necessarily dislike the choice in itself, but they just made a new MagSafe for the iPhone. It has the same name, it serves the same purpose, but it's completely different, and of course, it doesn't work here. They could have used a different name, which is something you will hear again in this video. Okay, but what about the performance? According to Apple, the new M1 Pro delivers up to 70% faster CPU performance compared to the M1, which is great. But the real aspect in which the M1 was lacking is actually GPU performance, that now has been doubled. So, good job, Apple. But wait, M1 Pro? Why did they call it that? I guess it works, but like, why didn't they call it M1X? Like they have been doing since they started making their own silicon? I cannot stand how inconsistent Apple's naming structure is, but it gets worse. They also made an even more powerful chip, the M1 Max. This makes even less sense. The meaning of the word Max in the iPhone's lineup, you know, their most popular category of products, is just the same but bigger. Like physically bigger. The iPhone 13 Pro Max, for example, is pretty much that. The only other time they use the word Max is with AirPods Max, an entirely different thing from AirPods Pro. Is this something entirely different? I don't think so. Also, the computer itself is named MacBook Pro, not MacBook Max. And the best part is, they didn't have to do this. They could have just called them M1X and M1Z, which is what they did with the 2020 iPad Pro. The cool thing though is that you can now configure even the more portable 14-inch model, and portability is important when buying a laptop, with the best chip they have, which simply was not a thing in the past. That's one of the advantages of Apple Silicon. You'll have to offer one of your kidneys as a tribute, but it can be done. Since you're here, I guess you really enjoy listening to me ranting about insignificant details of Apple product design or marketing. Luckily for you, I've also ranted about insignificant details of the new iPhones. Check this video out if you want. Ciao!